19%. Only 19% of B2B marketing teams have integrated AI into their daily workflows, according to the Content Marketing Institute. The gap between AI hype and actual implementation is massive. Any idiot with a keyboard can use AI, so why are most marketers stuck in the AI experimentation mode, running isolated pilots and struggling to scale beyond basic use cases? The technology isn't the problem anymore. The real challenge is organizational readiness and strategy. So how do you move from AI experimentation to enterprise-wide transformation? I'm Benjamin Shapiro, and joining me today is David Rabin, the Chief Marketing Officer at Lenovo's Solutions and Services Group, which helps companies build right-size AI solutions. And today, David is going to share how you can overcome organizational barriers that are blocking your AI adoption. David, welcome to the MarTech podcast.
Ben, thank you for having me. That's a great intro. I hope I can follow through on what you just said. Let's see. Let's give it a shot.
Well, hey, here we go. Let's start off with something basic blocking and tackling here. Lenovo, I think of Lenovo as like the little black boxes, the computers with the little red mouse, and now you have a services and a solutions group. So how did Lenovo go from a hardware manufacturer to getting into services to being an AI-led services organization?
Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. This has been a thoughtful journey for the company. As you said, we are known throughout the world for, you called it the little black box. We'll call it the ThinkPad, the world's best and most best-selling business laptop. But we've really gone beyond that. And if we can be totally candid, hardware in our industry is necessary, but in many cases it's gotten commoditized. And the company realized, great hardware, awesome. How do we go deeper? How do we provide more value and solve more customer problems? So about a decade ago, we went out and bought the IBM x86 server business, and we bought the Motorola phone business from Google. And then about 4 years ago, we realized for us to truly solve customer problems, delivering the outcomes they want, we've got to get deeper into solutions and services. And so here we are today. We're a $69 billion company. Of course, we're number one in PCs around the world. 1 out of every 4 PC is a Lenovo product. But more and more customers know us for delivering real solutions. And of course, we're going to talk a lot about AI today. We're one of the pioneers in delivering AI solutions.
It seems like I didn't know that Lenovo, I knew that you guys had bought the hardware business from IBM. I didn't realize that Motorola was part of Lenovo as well,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
This great hardware infrastructure, you're adding services on, the deck gets reshuffled, everybody's talking about AI. So tell me about what some of the enterprise struggles that you're seeing with AI adoption with some of the people that are working with Lenovo services.
Yeah, and actually, I'll even point out, when I started at the company, Ben, about 19 years ago, we were about a $12 billion company. Today, almost 70 billion, and I take credit for about 3/4 of that. So I really feel like I've been instrumental to the company. But in all seriousness, we spent a lot of time thinking about the IT decision maker, what's happening in the walls of the enterprise. And of course, we also do a lot of consumer research as well. But IT DMs told us in a study earlier in this year, 3 big blockers. First, ROI. How do you calculate ROI on a process or a tool or a program that you've never done before? So we got to help customers figure out how to get a fast path to ROI. The second thing is the data. You cannot run AI without organized data. And again, we deal with a lot of companies that are struggling on that. The third is the people. None of us were trained at university in being AI solution deployment experts. And so we got to make sure that IT departments have the capabilities and the resources and the knowledge to deploy AI. Now, put your marketing hat on. We're struggling with the same things, right? How do I deploy marketing solutions when I don't know what the ROI is going to be, when I don't have organized data and I don't have the people that have the skills to do it, right? So a lot of parallels in IT and marketing.
In my intro, I mentioned any idiot with a keyboard can use artificial intelligence, right? The playing field has been leveled. So why is there such an implementation problem when seems like the tech adoption should be easier? The barrier to entry for this advanced technology has been leveled. But yet people are really struggling to do anything other than like, well, I had ChatGPT write a poorly worded email for me.
Yeah. Think about the requirements to build an AI solution. Okay, the easy one is you got to have the hardware. So maybe you're doing it on a laptop, maybe you're storing data on a server. That's maybe the easiest one. You're going to have the right model. You're going to have organized data. You're going to have software to power it all. And then in some cases, you're going to need a solutions company to tie it all together. So the point being, yes, any idiot with a keyboard can go onto ChatGPT for sure. Any idiot with a keyboard can use an AI photo generation tool. But is it going to be secure? Is it going to tie into the rest of your MarTech stack? Is the company going to have the right governance to even let you do it? There's a lot of barriers. And, again, we can talk throughout the course of this conversation. A lot of it is tops down. If you don't have a leadership team that's saying, go, don't wait, go, you're going to be stuck in stall mode for a long time.
Yeah, it's something that is like hard for me to wrap my head around, the enterprise grade barriers. For a long time, I worked at eBay, so I'm not a total novice when it comes to some of the enterprise restrictions. But I'm a guy that sitting at home, using cloud-based, browser-based, solopreneur tools, and I'm able to build relatively articulate, artificially intelligent led workflows that are enabling me to scale to be at least as powerful, just myself, as the marketing team that I ran when I ran a startup 10 years ago. So walk me through, you mentioned the governance, the pain points. It's like, why aren't larger organizations just saying, look, you guys have a million tools that you can use, go get them and let's figure it out?
Yeah, but let's turn back the clock a decade. Why did Uber succeed? Why did Airbnb succeed? Why did Netflix succeed against giants, right? David and Goliath. Why did Amazon succeed against the Barnes and Nobles of the world? Because they were nimble. They were flexible. They were able to cut corners. So, history has shown, unfortunately, that large enterprises generally act slower than more nimble startups. It's also one of the reasons why so many of the software companies that are delivering AI-based solutions are companies that 12 months ago you never heard of, right? And it's one of the reasons why you're seeing companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Meta buying up these organizations, because they're not as nimble as these smaller organizations. So again, to your point, a solopreneur can do things faster than a large enterprise company. Now, you can't do it at scale necessarily. You're not going to have the backing of the large company. This is a pervasive issue in the corporate world today. And it's one of the reasons why you're seeing more organizations quickly putting governance programs in place, not to slow things down, but to recognize we got to move fast. So get the governance in place, get your security checkpoints in place, and just start moving. It's taken us a while to get there.
Walk me through that, because I think of my wife's company. She works at a big box retailer in strategy, and she was just in a meeting with the CEO. And they asked her to both lead the meeting and take the notes at the same time. And I was like, why don't you just have your note taker on? Like, just get the transcript. She's like, how do you do that? I'm like, all right, if you guys aren't able to figure out how to use a note taker, like, I'm sure their company will be fine. But this seems like an enterprise scale problem where it's like, well, the privacy restrictions and oh my God, you can't use a note taker. It's like, it's such commonplace problems. How do enterprises like defend some sense of turf if they can't use like the basic technologies? And sorry to my wife's company.
No. We don't need to apologize to them. I'm sure it's a great company. But think about the first thing I said. One of the things we talk about is ROI. AI costs money. It is not free. So even though you think that when you're doing a ChatGPT query, it's free, it is not. We use Copilot. We've got a great relationship with Microsoft. Copilot is not free. There is a cost incurred per seat per month to use Copilot. So now organizations have to say, okay, let's take your wife's company. I've got 5,000 employees. For every employee that I give a Copilot license so that it enables me to to take notes and get transcripts, great. It's going to cost them money. So they got to figure out, is the ROI going to be worth it? Now, most companies will tell you they're not increasing their IT budgets. Why not?
Right.
Because they don't know they need to. So what they're doing is saying, if you think this AI thing is so valuable, cut something else. Well, now as a decision maker, I have to cut something that's working. I have to cut something that's giving me return, right? So it's more than just governance. It's more than just security. There's a cost component of this as well. And we're facing it, right? Because we're trying to sell AI solutions. We're trying to sell AI PCs with Copilot licenses. And we get conversation with customers who say, is it going to be worth me spending an extra $300 per user to do that?
Why is it cost so much more for an enterprise than it would for a smaller company to use the advanced technology?
I don't know if it costs so much more, but again, we've got to put a lot of governance in place. We have to put additional security in place. You don't want your wife's company allowing data to leak somewhere where it's going to affect you as a consumer, right? So we do have a bit more of a layer cake than you would as a consumer. Plus, as consumers, we're pre-wired not to care. We're pre-wired to see that little screen that says, read this whole thing and check this box if you're willing to sell your entire life story. Companies don't want to do that.
All right, so there's these big companies that have to pay extra to be able to use the tools that for down market solutions, we don't have the same governance and administration and user management and security problems. And so they cost more. I understand.
Yep.
But it
Yep.
seems like everybody that I see that is an executive on LinkedIn, every CMO is like, here's how we mastered AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody is, waving the flag and claiming victory. How many of their teams are actually implementing AI, and is that all just like BS to get personal
Well,
brands out there?
I don't want to give trade secrets of the CMO community. We meet as a community every week over coffee and we talk about this stuff. No, I mean, look, the reality is, I think we all know there's a lot more bluster than action happening right now. But I'd say the good news is that what we're starting to see is pockets of AI activity. So let me give you an example. We have been doing our best to partner much closer with our sales organization. And one of the tools that is not new to the industry, but that we've been deploying is more account-based marketing. Gives us an opportunity to sit down with our sales leadership and talk through how do we do sort of individual account by account marketing with them. Now, historically, that's a very manual process. We've got to sit and identify a customer list. We've got to then kind of research out the buying groups. We've got to do firmographics and technographics and intent signals. It's a very, very manual process.
Right.
So I can now automate that. We use Demandbase. It's one of our strategic partners. We use LinkedIn matched audiences. We're able to sort of automate a lot of that stuff, but there's still a lot of manual process involved, right? So it's way too soon to declare victory. We know what the goalpost looks like. We know that a truly automated process, which would go from identifying the customer all the way to building a marketing program around them, delivering personalized marketing to them, measuring it, and then delivering an intent signal to a seller saying it's time to call this customer. That is the holy grail. We're probably 28 to 32% of the way there right now. So yeah, on LinkedIn, for sure.
All right.
We declare victory. Behind the scenes, we're at the 30-yard line.
28 to 32%. Very scientific.
Like
I'm going to basically say that 72% of LinkedIn posts are pure bullshit.
I would agree with that.
Hey, that's probably scientific. So talk to me a little bit about organizational behaviors. For the 28 to 32% of the CMOs who are claiming AI victory that have actually had their teams implement some useful AI solutions.
Yeah.
What are the behaviors that those teams are exhibiting that are allowing them to actually adopt AI and get an ROI from it?
I'm going to get in trouble here probably, so I'm kind of hopeful some of my team doesn't watch this. But here's sort of how we would look at this. And actually, let me give you a real world example of something we built. About 18 months ago, we built a tool called Studio AI. It is a content development tool that's generative AI based. And I can tell you about the
internal tool.
Internal tool. Yep.
Okay.
And I can tell you all about the backend technology, about the models we use and about the software and about the data. But the change management piece has actually been the most difficult part of it. Sure, I'm making the IT part sound easy because I didn't have to do that. I handed that off to an IT team. They went and built it. But here's how change management goes. Let's say I need to make a print ad or I want to make a brochure. It doesn't matter what it is for a new product. The model today for a lot of companies is write a brief. So marketing manager writes a brief and then they send it somewhere. They send it to an internal agency, to a copywriter, to a designer, or in a lot of cases, you send it to an external agency partner. And then what do? Take a vacation for a week and, you go out to the beach.
Coffee.
You read a book, you do your thing for a week. And then maybe a week later, the agency comes back. They give you something to look at. I kind of like it, but you need to fix a few things. Go on another vacation for a week. You come back and maybe it's 90% of the way there.
God, work was wonderful before.
Yeah, exactly. Here's the deal with Studio AI. Grab that coffee cup again, Ben, because with Studio AI, you push the button, you upload your brief to Studio AI, you push the button and say, make me a brochure, grab a cup of coffee, come back, it's done. It's done. It's sitting right there in the tool. Now, as the marketing manager, I'm the one responsible for, I don't really love the headline or why did they choose this photo? Let me kind of make this a little bit more bold. Hey, let's bring in a customer case study. I'm going to reprompt the tool. It's going to regenerate it. Now, I'm going to do that all in 15 minutes or 20 minutes instead of the 2 weeks, but I've lost the safety net. It's all on me now. So my safety net of the agency screwed it up. The agency took too long. The agency went over budget, or the designer or the technical writer. It's gone now. It's
Right.
all on me, the marketer. So the change management is really kind of proving to be the tougher challenge than actually building the tool and seeing results. And that's the thing. I've got real-time data showing it's working. It's still a change process to get people to kind of stop doing things the old way and the new way. And it actually is one of the reasons why for our IT customers, we actually sell an advisory and change management service to them, because we know we're going to have to come in and help them not just build the tool and deploy it. We're going to have to educate the organization on how does it work and why you should use it.
When you say change management, is it getting people used to the new workflows and adopting the tools and getting them to apply them? Or is it more of a mind shift change where they have to understand the power of the tools and the capabilities that they have?
Absolutely both. It's truly both, right? I would say the second one is probably the bigger piece,
Hey, Siri,
but
stop.
hey, Siri. But here we go. This is exactly the world we're living in right now. 5 years ago, you never wanted to talk to tools, and now it's all we want to do, right? You've got to convince people of the power of the tool. Actually, think about we talk a little bit here about chatbots sometimes. At some point, when you started calling to return an item you bought at a clothing store, they offered you the opportunity to do it online with a chatbot. Walmart does a great job of this. And the first time that service is probably teed up, you're probably thinking, come on, I want to talk to somebody, right? Let's get this thing resolved. And then you realize I can do this from the couch or from the toilet or from my bed. I can do it without talking to a human being. Let me use the technology. And guess what? It works pretty damn well, right? So a lot of this is just get somebody over the hurdle, force them to do it once. They realize it's going to work. And then you kind of get the change management ball rolling pretty fast.
Yeah, I'll fight you on that one. I think most of the AI led customer service is a terrible experience, mostly in e-commerce, where, like I find myself the equivalent of, when you used to have the landline and you're just yelling, talk to a representative. I press smash zero as much as you can. Whenever it starts with AI, I'm like, okay, I'm giving all my information. It always ends up being like, hang on, let me go get a person to solve this problem. And I was like,
yeah.
I don't.
But here's what I'll tell you. And this is one of the reasons we focus on diversity of marketing and research so much. I'm going to guess, Ben, you're over 22 years old.
Yeah, just barely.
Like okay.
Double it.
Talk to one generation below both of us. They don't want to talk to a human anymore. So we're also preparing, kind of coaching people for what's coming next. But I really believe, and I will fight you back on kind of the use of AI tools. We're coming to a point where it's going to be very difficult to get to a human because almost everything's going to go through an AI filter. And candidly, they're getting better on a daily basis. We use a lot of AI for our service desk capabilities. And trust me, the amount of calls we can reduce, friction we reduce in the system, and cost is pretty staggering.
Yeah, my personal experience is the reason why the costs are going down is because the user's getting frustrated and they're hanging up the phone, not actually completing the journey. So it actually gets into the next thing is how do you measure the ROI of all of this, whatever your AI implementation is? Hey, I'm using my chatbot going through customer service and we have less calls. People are probably getting frustrated and quitting.
That's right.
How do you measure what the business impact is of the AI implementation?
Yeah. So from a Studio AI standpoint, this tool that we're using for almost all of our marketing enablement in our solutions and services group, this was easy to measure. I'm measuring time savings and cost savings. My costs per asset go down about 90%. My time savings goes down about 70%, right? Because as the example I told you earlier, it's not this 2 weeks of back and forth. It's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Okay, maybe it takes a day because you got to route it to somebody else to look at. So that's material savings. Go back to the demand-based ABM program we talked about earlier. I know that my engagement with customers is higher. Why? Because I'm targeting them better and I'm giving them content which actually makes sense for what they want to see, as opposed to we're using a lot more human touch here. I think the customer might want this. And I can't give you a number yet, but we are seeing shorter sales cycles, right? Because we're speeding up the train. The customer is getting information faster that makes more sense. I'm handing over a lead to a sales rep a lot faster, so the cycle's getting shorter. So we're seeing a lot of that. The other way to look at this, and I've actually read a little bit about kind of the AI view of the old marketing adage about faster, better, cheaper. You can pick a couple of those.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, did I really?
I was just going to say everything I know about the way the world works fast, cheaper, good, pick two. And it
Yeah.
seems like we're like, hey, we could do a lot and we could do it fast and it doesn't
Yep.
cost very much. It's like, all right, well, are we sacrificing quality?
Exactly. But okay, so let me talk out of both sides of my mouth. The first is, again, go back to the example I gave you. If you're going to see, significant savings in time, so time to produce, and in cost, what about the better? Is it going to be better? Today, and I'm going to be totally blunt with you, I don't care if it's better today, because the cost savings and the time savings are so material. Even if it's a 15 or 20% less effective, I'm not saying it is, but even if it is 20% less effective, I'm okay with that, because I'm going to move the train so much faster at a lot lower cost. Down the road, if we take things like, why do we let airplanes get flown by computers? Because guess what? They make fewer mistakes. Now, you still need the human touch there, but I do believe we will get to a point, using the tools that we're using in marketing, that the quality and the output actually will become better.
Yeah. I've had different experiences, and I do think that there's a scenario where you can do fast, cheap, and good. But it requires more implementation up front. And I'll give you the example of sort of our pre-production process. When we write our interview scripts, it used to be judgment, me looking at the company that you work for and looking at your LinkedIn page and looking at maybe some of your previous speaking experience and seeing if you're somebody that I want to talk to. And I'm just using intuition.
Mhm.
We move towards an AI first model where we are doing more deep research on who you are, your background, your company, your previous speaking experience, your alignment with our goals. Are you talking about topics that are interesting to our audience? And we're able to do deeper, better fact checking to understand who you are as a speaker. That's how you got on the podcast.
Yep.
Right.
Awesome.
And,
Yeah.
look, I might have looked before and been like, Lenovo, that's a hardware company.
Right.
Right. And now I'm like, oh, no, they have a services business. And here's why they're the perfect fit
Mhm.
for coming on the MarTech podcast. I might have just completely steamrolled your application. And it's the AI that helped me do more thorough research.
Yeah.
And I actually do think it's faster, cheaper, and better.
Yeah, but even let's go back to that help desk example at an e-com, establishment. They're likely willing to sacrifice a little quality because they know it's going to be infinitely faster and substantially cheaper. They're probably going to be, kind of closing down some of their service centers. They're willing to accept a little bit of a degradation in quality and customer satisfaction today.
But doesn't that have a long-term impact on the brand?
Yep. Probably
Right.
does, but tomorrow it's going to be better, and the day after tomorrow it's going to be even better, right? I mean, look, this is when companies, including us, you start looking at less expensive ways to service customers. Some companies will offshore, right? You know that there's going to be some sort of a trade-off. You just hope the trade-off to the good outweighs the trade-off to the bad.
All right. The last question I have for you. What should marketing leaders expect to break in their current stack when they're moving towards an AI first approach?
Yeah. Something. I mean, something will break, right? Because the perfect world for an AI solution is that tool A works with tool B, which works with tool C. When it's all manual, it doesn't really matter. When I've got a content development tool that doesn't really need to talk to the data, it doesn't need to talk to how I publish, because we're just manually, it's a relay race. I'm going to hand from point A to point B to point C. It doesn't really matter. In the future, I mean, let's use web as an example. If I want to get something up on the glass in 15 minutes, something's got to write it. I got to know who I'm talking to, what I want to talk about. It's got to feed in the product imagery. I've got to have a content library to store it. I got all this stuff, and I got to be able to publish it and QA it. All of it has to work together. If one of those tools doesn't sync up, as a marketing leader, I'm going to find another tool. So I'm going to put that first tool out of business, go find one that works. So something along your marketing stack will likely need to be replaced, because it's not all going to string together like you want and like we do today, because it's manual.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I've learned about doing my implementation, albeit at a much smaller scale than some of the clients that you're advising, is the context filtering. We think about prompt engineering. I just interviewed the head of AI at HubSpot, and he said it's not prompting, it's context.
Hmm.
right? The models now are so good that you can type in basically garbage and it'll figure out what you mean.
Absolutely.
But
Yep.
if you're
Yep.
not restricting what information it's looking at, it tries to boil the ocean and you get these wide variances in
Hmm.
responses. And so when you're thinking about what's going to break, to me, it's that context layer and whatever you're using to filter what information is relevant. Like that's the thing you have to figure out first, whether you're pulling it from an ABM content market, like all the different tools, there's the plumbing, like the sort of IT and infrastructure. Yes, you have to build that. But what actually makes it good is figuring out the right context filtering. And that's something that's really requires human thought to be able to figure out.
Absolutely. And it also requires upscaling. Again, instead of me writing a brief saying I need a brochure on this new product and we're trying to talk to an IT leader who buys infrastructure solutions, I've got to put a little bit more thought into it now to make sure that the output is kind of what I'm thinking about. So absolutely. The people that get ahead of the race and start getting a little bit smarter than they are today because they lose the crutch of more teams and resources, they're the people that will succeed over the next year, 3 years, 5 years. But I totally agree with the HubSpot commentary. Prompt engineering is sort of being phased out into something much bigger.
Yeah. All right, David, I want to move on to our lightning round where I'm going to ask you a couple of MarTech related questions, generally surrounding this week's topic, which is embracing AI adoption. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Number one, what's the biggest mistake you've seen enterprise companies make when trying to implement AI?
The biggest mistake. Probably running too fast into AI without some sort of a strategy or a safety net. And as a small, solopreneur, you probably can get away with it. With a larger company, there's a little bit of process that has to go into place. We built an AI committee. They do two things. One, they manage our marketing on the marketing side. They manage our marketing governance, and they're out evaluating tools, right? We've got well over 1,000 people in our global, marketing department. We know there's tools out there that we should be using. We got a team evaluating them. Data is key. If your data is not in good shape, properly organized, you're going to fail. For us, like with Studio AI, we're able to pull together a product reference database, a visual identity database, a tone of voice database, an image library. But if we couldn't do that, Studio AI as a tool would not work. And then I think the last thing is about, you got to know what success looks like for you. Let's go back to the faster, cheaper, better. For me, with Studio AI, it was faster and cheaper. We will get to the better, but I'm not challenging the team saying this looks like crap compared to what the agency did that took, or the designer did that took 2 weeks and cost, $25,000. I mean, if it's crap, it's crap. We're not going to use it. But if it's good enough right now, great, let's roll with it.
What I'm hearing from you is, first off, garbage in, garbage out, right? If you're
Mhm.
trying to implement AI and your house is a mess, right, you're going to be feeding bad data into AI. You're not going to have the right context. And so the results of whatever you're
You will
trying to
fail.
do are not going to be good. And so to me, it seems like the biggest mistake is making sure you've got your house in order before you add this additional layer of technology that should help simplify and allow you to move better, faster, and cheaper.
Sure. But the flip side is you got to start. You cannot wait. And in fact, when we talk to customers, we're sort of in the heyday right now of generative AI, but right around the corner is agentic AI. I've got this vision that, with our Studio AI tool, instead of a marketer actually having to do the prompts, we're just going to tell the tool, oh, by the way, in 30 days, we're about to launch this new product. Marketer then can expect in about a week, they're going to wake up and in their inbox is going to be the whole marketing toolkit for that product without even having to prompt it. So if you don't start now, it's going to start getting really difficult to catch up. You just got to do something.
Yeah, maybe the biggest mistake is not getting started fast enough. All right, let's move on to the second question. Look, the world's a little bit of a weird place. We've got tariffs and geopolitical stuff and earthquakes and Russia making waves around the world. I'm sure at some point it's going to affect marketing and our budget. So, how do you decide which marketing channels to cut when the budgets get slashed in the back half of this year?
Yeah. We just guess most of the time. No, look, I mean, we'd like to think we're a data-driven company. We know that this tactic works better than this tactic. So that's where we would start. We're generally going to take a bit more of a macro view, though. So then let's take your tariff example. If we're sensing a little bit of softness in a certain part of the world or with a certain category, that will steer us from a business standpoint to maybe flex up or down in that space. We like to be as agile as possible, though. So the world of digital marketing lets us do that. It's not like we're not sitting here ready, going, hey, let's go buy that Super Bowl commercial right now. Most of the world is really reacting more on demand so that we can turn the spigot on and off. Then there's also some wild cards. Actually, I have a soccer ball here, football, because depending on which part of the world you're in, we are a FIFA and World Cup partner. I just came from a meeting on this, so it's kind of top of mind to me.
Yep.
But we made a big investment in FIFA and the World Cup. We are one of the top 7 partners to the entire organization. We're going to power most of the technology for the 26 World Cup. It's going to be very difficult for me to now go convince our leadership team, I'm going to cut our hospitality program for next summer because, I want to save some money. So we also have to take into consideration, if we've already made one big bet, we don't want to probably cut that at the knees.
Yeah. It leads me into the next question, which I'll ask in a second here, but it seems like there's marketing channels that can be cut. We also have this implementation of AI. Is it a marketing channel? Is it a services issue? Is it a people issue? Can you do more with less? I think that's, really the big question on everybody's mind as budgets get cut.
Yeah.
Are marketers still going to be in the job? So with that said, which marketing roles do you think will be extinct in the next 5 years?
I wish I knew the actual answer to that because it would help me with my organizational planning. But there's a role that we think about as order takers. They're people that sort of wait for a brief to land on their desk and then they start running. And it could be a writer, it could be a designer, it could be anybody that's sort of at the mercy of somebody else to get their work started. Those roles are going to be the first to go. I mean, you kind of said it on your own. Imagine if you had a researcher and 6 months ago, you would have said, hey, I need you to do some research on David Raven. Tell me everything you can find out about David Raven, his speaking style, what his company's up to, how he writes, how he talks. Today, in literally 15 minutes, you can get that done. So the order taker role is going to be phased out. If the order taker roles today can start figuring out ways to add value, to add strategy, to be smarter on the marketplace, they might have a future. If not, we'll start phasing those roles out yesterday.
Yeah, it's funny. I think of it a little bit of a different framework, and maybe the question led this direction where it's what roles. Are writers going to be in trouble? Are researchers going to be in trouble? Is the executive team going to be worthless? Can marketers do it all themselves? Who knows? I actually don't think it's an individual role. I think where the gap is going to be with adopters and laggards.
Right. Yeah.
Where if you know how to use artificial intelligence effectively, you're going to have superpowers to expand your role, scope, and effectiveness for your organization. You'll be incredibly more powerful and valuable. If you're just trying to do things the old way and you're a writer and you're sitting there and like, nope, got to use my typewriter, can't use AI, got to write every word myself, you're a dinosaur.
That's right.
You're in trouble. And so to me, it's like, what's going to be extinct? It's not being enabled with the co-pilot next to you or not understanding how to build agents that can do the work that you want in your style for you. And we serve as more of the filtering mechanism and less of the operators.
Yeah. But even if you were to say, let's take our marketing hats off for 1 second. Okay, truck drivers, we rely on them to move goods around the country. What if those become all autonomous? We don't know. What about a radiologist who today we would say, wow, I mean, they're going to be kind of reading what's going on inside my body. But if tomorrow an AI tool can take over and say, we got this, we don't need to wait 6 hours or an hour for the radiologist. It's just going to do it real time. I mean, even front desk workers. I mean, if you've walked into a fast food restaurant recently, the human interaction is almost gone because they want you to order at a kiosk. So there's all sorts of functions that if they're the ones waiting for the thing to happen, tell me to drive this truck from point A to point B. Here is this x-ray, please read it. I would like to give you my order. Any of those jobs that you're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do are ripe to be replaced by AI.
Yeah, undoubtedly, there will be industries that are totally disrupted. When I think of the role of marketing, right, a truck driver, yes, the trucking industry, when autonomous vehicles become commonplace, probably going to change pretty dramatically. When we think about the service workers and sort of the idea and the creatives in marketing specifically, some marketers can do incredible things with very limited AI tools now. And, in 5 years from now, when we've got more agentic services and super intelligence and God knows what is coming down the pike,
Yep.
you're going to have these people that really can do amazing large scale campaign creation, management, execution, evaluation using the tool set. And that makes the need for the sort of order taker type role to be less important.
Yeah. And even what you're describing also is we're going to do more on our own. So just like today, we're sometimes more comfortable looking at our phone for hours on end than communicating with other people. You can imagine a workplace where some of the team dynamic starts to get fractured because more and more of the work I'm going to do, from the insights to the strategy to the content development to the publishing, might be done by me as opposed to a team of people.
All right, last question for you. What's the biggest budget burner in marketing right now?
Well, wasting money on programs that are not delivering ROI. So a fairly generic example, but there's still a great percentage of marketing that is not providing a return. It's going to vary by the company. Some people are investing in tools that are not paying off. Some are investing in staff and people that are not paying off. Others are investing in marketing programs that are not working. Some are investing in sponsorships that are not paying off. In order for you to fund AI programs, you're going to have to cut that fat because you're not getting a bigger budget. Marketing budgets, IT budgets, they're not, rapidly increasing. Go find the stuff that you're wasting the money on and stop doing it. And I think, look, if I sum up why this is happening, it's inertia. We're really slow as an industry to change what we're doing. We got people, right? The people got to do that thing, right? As a leader, I don't want to give up a third of my team. I don't want to, cut budgets, cut agencies, cut programs. It's inertia. It just kind of takes over and you just kind of keep rolling and doing the thing. Even companies that talk about zero-based budgeting, look at it a year later. It's inertia. You wind up doing a lot of the same stuff. You got to break the inertia. You got to cut a few things that aren't working and start experimenting in some of these new AI tools, AI programs, AI solutions. That's what's going to change your company, change you as a marketer.
It's interesting. I thought you were going to say SEO or PPC, like obviously agentic AI and people using LLMs as their primary source of information. It's hurting traditional Google search, right?
Yep.
And then you think of just what's happening in the industry trends. Nobody wants to be advertised to. And so, content, I think, is starting to be the vehicle, which mostly on the B2B side becomes more effective than the traditional ad models. And yours is like, no, there's just fat that you're going to have to cut across all
and
the
that
different
may
channels.
and Ben, that may be true for some companies, what you just said. It may not be true for other companies. I mean, the SEO model, Google's got a pretty darn good thing going right now. What does it look like in 5 years? I don't know. But to your point, the way we communicate with people, we're getting a lot smarter. AI is making us smarter. AI is making us more nimble. It's letting us target the right person faster. We know what they ate for breakfast now. But can I serve them up the right piece of content that makes them think, oh, they're right, I had a burrito for breakfast and now they want to talk to me about IT? Great. I want to talk to them. We couldn't do that a few years ago, but if I didn't start cutting some fat out of the budget, I couldn't have afforded to invest in these tools.
Yeah. David, well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and telling us a little bit about AI adoption and specifically about what it's like in the enterprise sphere. How can people get a hold of you if they're interested? Anything you want to plug before we let you go?
Hey, Lenovo's changing, so pay attention to us. Doesn't matter what function you're in. We like to be known as a company that's changing the world and delivering smarter technology for all. So you can find me on LinkedIn or pop me a note. But love the conversation, and I really appreciate Ben having me on the show.
Appreciate you coming on. And that wraps up this episode of the MarTech podcast. Thanks to David Rabin, the Chief Marketing Officer at Lenovo Solutions and Services Group, for joining us. If you'd like to contact David, you could find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes or on martechpod.com, or you can visit his company's website, which is lenovo.com. And if you haven't subscribed yet and you want a daily stream of marketing and technology knowledge in your podcast feed, hit the subscribe button in your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed every week. All right, that's it for today. But until next time, my advice is to just focus on keeping your customers happy.